have some critical online banking transactions to do. You might want to plan them for a Monday or Friday. A group of malicious hackers is having its way with online banks lately, seemingly knocking sites offline at will. The latest victims are HSBC and Ally Bank, but virtually every major bank has been targeted by the group since the attacks began 5 weeks ago. The attacks seem straight out of the movie plot. An anonymous note is posted online, usually on a Monday or early Tuesday, declaring the week's victims. The targets thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Then are besieged at some point during that Tuesday through Thursday stretch. On Friday, the group seems to rest. Do you want attacks to be stopped? Stop the insults, the group declared in last week's warning message. Insults refers to the now infamous Innocence of Muslims online video that was initially blamed for last month's mob attack on the U.S. mission in Benghazi, Libya. This week's attack targets, if there are any, have not yet been published. The bank attacks are remarkable because they seem unstoppable, even with advance warning. Just how bad are thank you for trying verbose? This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Banks suffering at the hands of attackers. Rodney Joffe, senior technologist at internet infrastructure provider Neustar, said the best some banks can do to prepare is to have a sincere-sounding apology at the ready, backed up with a plan B that points customers to an alternative method of communication such as a call center. There is in fact no way to defend against it properly, said Joffe, who has helped banks try to recover from the attacks. We can mitigate the attacks to some extent, but it is very difficult to keep systems up. This is one of our thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Worst nightmares. The criminals identified themselves in their warnings as the Al-Qassam cyber fighters, purportedly part of Hamas' Al-Qassam military wing. The basic attack is nothing new, it's a denial-of-service attack designed to make the banking websites unavailable. Bank sites are flooded with bogus internet traffic so they are overwhelmed, and can only give the equivalent of a busy signal to customers. But these attacks are very different, experts say, because of the sheer amount of bogus traffic that's generated. With online banking services broken, consumers flood banks with phone calls, creating headaches. Thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. For customers and banks alike, it's customer service nightmare for banks. They just aren't set up for this, Joffe said. But the biggest nightmare, he said, is that banks don't defeat the attacks with countermeasures. The criminals simply stop and turn their attention on another target, leaving bank security officials wondering when they might be victimized again. Capital One, for example, has suffered at least 2 separate service disruptions. As provider of backup content delivery for many of the world's largest websites, Akamai Technology handles denial-of-service attacks every day, and it has dealt thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. With the current wave of attacks, Mike Smith, director of Akamai's incident response team, says the attacks succeed through a simple matter of arithmetic. Banks buy, at most, an internet pipe that can handle 20 gigabits per second of web traffic, he said. The attackers are generating about 50 gigabits per second, making any tool that could filter out bad requests inadequate. It's fairly brute force, rather than laser scalpel, he said. Banks could consider tripling the bandwidth they buy, he explained, but that would be a huge waste of money during non-attack time. Yes, and thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. The criminals might just increase their bogus traffic anyway. It's all an arms race, he said. How are criminals able to marshal such enormous traffic resources? They are employing a new kind of electronic army, experts said. Until now, most denial-of-service attacks involved large botnets, armies of compromised desktop computers, that could number 100,000 or more. These were clumsy, hard to coordinate and often limited by bandwidth purchased by home users. In this attack, criminals are taking control over web servers that have access to much wider internet traffic pipes. Computers thank you for trying verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. That host popular website blogs, for example. As a result, criminals can attack with refined armies of only 1,000 to 2,000 compromised servers. while still wielding a devastating cyber weapon against bank websites. Adding to the complexity for victims, such compromised servers are also harder to knock offline than home PCs in botnets, Jobs said, because they are often intertwined with legitimate businesses that are reluctant to voluntarily go offline to clean them up. It's not a new kind from a technical perspective, it's just able to generate overwhelming volumes of traffic that are indeed quite noteworthy. Thank you for trying Verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased, said Dmitry Alperovich, Chief Technology Officer at CrowdStrike, a startup focused on cyber espionage defense. With a smaller, more powerful botnet, attacker economics favor the criminals, Smith said. It's easier for them to replace servers that are cleaned up, and it's much easier for them to stop and start attacks. They have much more command and control over the nodes, Smith said. It's unusual for attackers to announce their targets ahead of time, but Smith said their reason for doing so is fairly obvious. What they are trying to do is amplify the bad public relations efforts. Thank you for trying Verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Element for banks, he said. Banks turn out to be a juicy target for denial-of-service attacks because their systems are easily turned against each other, Smith said. Thanks to numerous fraud-checking tools, every request made at a bank site generates multiple responses from bank servers, log files, IP checking tools, device ID verification tools, etc., amplifying the effect of every bogus request. In fact, while banks have beefed up fraud checks, they have done little to protect against denial-of-service attacks through the years, Smith said. Criminals, thank you for trying Verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. We have never wanted the sites to go down, because they need the sites to be up to commit fraud against the bank, he said. But even filters that find and deflect bogus website traffic wouldn't help much against these determined and sizable attacks, he said. Most enforcement mechanisms don't have the capacity to deal with this much traffic, Smith said. Given the remarkable scope of the attack, there has been much speculation by U.S. government officials, openly and on background, that the attacks could only be directed by a state-sponsored group, and thank you for trying Verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. Represent an aggressive act of cyber war perpetrated by agents of the Iranian government. Both Senator Joe Lieberman, ICON, and Defense Secretary Leon Panetta have openly blamed the attacks on Iran, with Panetta calling the incident a pre-9/11 moment. Several intelligence officials have told NBC News that they believe Iran is behind the attacks. Smith, however, says it's important not to dismiss the possibility that old-fashioned online fraudsters are using the protests over the innocence of Muslims film as a cover to simply steal money from banks. As evidence, he points to a warning issued by the FBI. Thank you for trying Verbose. This recording will go away once the product has been purchased. On September 17, which indicated that some banks had already been hit by denial-of-service attacks to help perpetrate wire fraud, with thefts as high as $400,000. The website attacks serve as a diversion, and when consumers flood customer service phone banks, criminals who've stolen bank logins have an easier time slipping fraud through bank systems, the alert said. It also predicts precisely the kinds of attacks banks are suffering through now. In some of the incidents, before and after unauthorized transactions occurred,